Hi, everyone. Welcome to our first installment of Blend 360's Women's History Month web series. My name is Kelsey, and I am the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Specialist for Talent Solutions here at Blend 360. In this series, I will be talking with Blend 360's women in leadership to get their insight, knowledge, and advice surrounding women in the workforce today. So, a little bit about Women's History Month. In the US, celebrating women's achievements started in 1978, where a school district in Sonoma, California held a week-long celebration of women's contributions to culture, history, and society. The idea would eventually catch on to other districts, and in 1980, President Carter issued the first presidential proclamation declaring the week of March 8th as National Women's History Week. 6 years later, the Congress would expand the event to be the entirety month of March. And then in March, we also celebrate International Women's Day, which first took place on March 8th, 1911, where a global celebration of economic, political, and social achievements of women were held. This day, countries around the world would celebrate with demonstrations, educational initiatives, and customs such as presenting women with gifts and flowers. The UN has sponsored International Women's Day since 1975, and each year there is a theme, and the theme this year is hashtag break the bias. So for our episode today, I will be chatting with my boss and mentor, Maggie Melnick, who is our managing partner here at Blend. Maggie, if you could just share a little bit about yourself and what you do here at Blend.
Sure, thanks, Kelsey. And I'm a managing partner here at Blend, leading the Blend Talent Solutions Eastern region. And I can't believe it, I've been here almost 10 years altogether. The first year and a half, I was here as a consultant. And what was supposed to be an 8-week assignment turned into 10 years. Never did I think I would be here this long. It started out as a very short-term assignment, and 10 years later, I'm still here. So it's kind of amazing. And before my time at Blend, I had a 15-year career at AT&T in sales and marketing. I was very fortunate to work with some really talented people there, and also had my own LLC to do some independent consulting, and was fortunate enough to spend some time as a stay-at-home mom when my 4 kids were young. So
wow, 4 kids in a career.
An interesting time for sure. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much, Maggie, for sharing that. I know it's been so great getting to work with you. Having a woman in leadership on our team has been awesome. So our topic for discussion today is called A League of Your Own, which focuses on women leadership in a male-dominated industry. So with that being said, Maggie, what were some obstacles that you have faced working in a male-dominated industry?
Yeah, it's a tough one. I mean, I started my career in telecom. I was right out of undergrad, and really didn't know what to expect from the corporate world. And if I think back on it and even reflect on some of the challenges women have today, I think one of the biggest things is likability bias. I think men and women in general are liked and admired for different personality traits, different work styles. And women have a tendency to be liked more for being kind and empathetic and likable, and all of those things that we even call soft skills, right? Feminine traits, so to speak, where men who are assertive, competitive, demanding, good negotiators, right? That is what men tend to be liked and respected for. And so I think women, especially when you're first starting your career, have a tendency to fall back on being liked more than being respected. And so, I think that that's tough, particularly in sales. So for women in sales, where being a good negotiator, being assertive, being competitive are sort of required traits and part of being successful, I think it's really tough, because where is the balance, right? They call it the Goldilocks syndrome, right? If you're too tough and you're too assertive, you're overly demanding, right?
Right.
You're bossy, you are outspoken. If you're passionate, you are emotional, unhinged, right? And if you are too nice and you're too empathetic, you're too soft, you're too easy, you're a pushover, right? You're not a good leader. And I think women have a tough time finding the balance between the two, especially if they work with a lot of men who have those expectations on them. So, I think whether you're starting out your career or if you're even, where I am today, this is something that I think a lot of women face. And I think it's probably one of the biggest obstacles, but certainly in sales seems to be more prevalent for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love the point, women are seen as bossy, if they are in a leadership spotlight. And my young niece, who's 10 years old, she always likes to say, I'm not bossy, I'm the boss. So
exactly.
starting them out young, right?
Yeah, I love it. I love
Yeah,
it.
love that so much. So kind of going off of that, what advice would you give your younger self to overcome those obstacles and to have the confidence to do that?
Yeah, great question, right? Because I have 3 daughters of my own, right? And as I think about my oldest daughter now starting to explore the workforce and, think about her first career move, it's something sort of near and dear to my heart, right? But if I even think back on my own younger self, I think the biggest thing is to try to be who you really are. And one of the benefits of age is that you don't care as much about what other people think, right? That's the beauty of maturity. You start worrying more about what you think about yourself and how you view yourself, and less about what other people think. And so I think if I was talking to my younger self, I would encourage her to find that balance between being your authentic self. I'm a naturally empathetic person. I don't think being nice is the same thing as being weak, right? And so I think you can find the comfort zone of what makes you feel true to yourself, but at the same time, don't be afraid to voice an unpopular opinion, right? Don't be afraid to be assertive and competitive just because somebody might be uncomfortable with you being that way. It doesn't mean you have to be a bitch, right?
Yeah.
It just means that you have the right to voice your own opinions, and not everyone is going to like that. And I think if you're going to be a leader, you have to get used to the fact that you're not friends with everybody, and that there are going to be people that don't agree with your opinions. They don't necessarily like you, but that's okay, right?
Yeah.
That's okay, and you have to be comfortable with that. And the one thing that I find a lot of young women doing is they make themselves small to make other people feel big. And I think that's a challenge for all women, but particularly young women. They tend to get really giggly, right, and apologetic, and they change the tone of their voice when they are afraid that they're offending somebody or they're overstepping a boundary. And I think in the end, that could really have a negative impact on whether you're taken seriously. So yeah, it's tough, right? It's not easy to find that balance, because you want to be who you really are, but at the same time, you want to feel like when you have an opinion or you want to go after something, that you have every right to do that. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I know, especially, younger women kind of getting into the workforce, you don't want to make waves. That's what you're taught, right? Don't make waves, kind of, be in the curtains, observing. And I think it's so important for, the next generation just to realize, you have a seat at the table, you have a voice, use it, don't make, like you said, don't make yourself small, fill up
Yeah,
that
and
room.
I think you're right, Kelsey. I think it's, one of the benefits of having a diverse workforce is diversity of thought, right? And if people in the room feel that their opinions are going to, make waves, as you say, or, they're afraid to be vocal because it might make somebody uncomfortable that they're being assertive, right? Then we're not getting the best of everybody, right?
Right.
And that's really a risk, right? Especially in business. If you're not hearing everyone's voices, you're not getting all the different perspectives and talents of the people on your team.
Right. Because I mean, I think about, even 20 years ago, women, weren't as, maybe they were assertive, but I think now with the movement of, just women empowerment, I think the landscape is changing. And I just think it's so amazing to see that. And like you said, the diversity amongst your team. Some great ideas may not have been known if a woman didn't speak up, right? So
Exactly.
it's
Exactly.
it's really interesting. And last month we did Black History Month, and I was researching different Black women who contributed to medical care. And the one, she did a lot of research about women and children and reproductive system as well. And without her knowledge and without her being, she was the first Black graduate of her college.
Wow.
And without that, where would we be, right? If she didn't
Right.
step out of the line, right? So
Yeah. It's
definitely
amazing.
always step out of that line, right? So
Yeah.
and then Maggie, my last question for you is, how can women navigate through power structures? What have you seen in your career, and how would you encourage a woman to navigate that?
Yeah, great question. I think, I've been really fortunate that I've had both strong and positive bosses, mentors, leaders in my career, both men and women. And so I've had the benefit of observing them as leaders as they were progressing in their careers. And I would encourage women to look for role models that you respect. It doesn't mean you have to emulate them and be who they are, but take the best of those who you respect the most, learn from their experience, learn from their mistakes, right? Really listen to their stories and maybe the rationale behind why they do certain things the way that they do. Um, and I think in general, there is, to your point earlier, Kelsey, there is more of um, an openness, right, to women being more assertive with their ideas today than maybe there was even 20 years ago, 30 years ago. So I think more women in the workplace has certainly helped that. But supporting other women, I think, is one of the best ways too,
Absolutely.
is, when you see a woman kind of vocalizing her opinion, being supportive of the fact that she vocalized it, even if you don't agree
Right.
with it. If you do see that there's a difference in the way people are perceiving men and women in your office or in your workplace, pointing that out. People, I think, in general, right, biases are unconscious for a reason, right? You don't
Right.
even realize that you come into an environment expecting certain things. I certainly didn't expect things that I've seen throughout my career, right? So I think women supporting other women is probably the biggest thing, but also,
Yeah.
picking a few mentors that you really respect and asking them for advice and coaching. Sometimes you may not realize in your own behaviors things that you're doing that contribute. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I think that's great advice. I know for me personally, I worked in the retail and customer service before I got into HR, and all of my leadership has always been female.
Right.
And I've always had that strong woman leadership to emulate. And then when I got into the restaurant and brewery industry, it's completely male dominated. So
Yeah.
trying to navigate,
Yeah.
that, and try to figure out, okay, well, how can I get my voice to be noticed? How can
Yeah.
I make sure that I'm being heard and I'm not just a face at the table, right? So
Yeah. Yeah.
I
And,
think
and
that,
it's not easy. And you want to make sure that
yeah,
you're not just talking to be heard, right? I think that
right.
was a piece of advice that I was given a long time ago because I talk a lot,
Yeah.
is sometimes to listen, right? To listen more than you talk. But you're right. Being in a male dominated industry and making that shift must have been tricky to some extent, right?
Yeah, because as
Yeah.
you probably know, Maggie, I have a lot of opinions.
Yeah.
I'm not
It's
afraid
good.
to to voice what I think. But I think that just goes to show, having that experience with women leadership throughout my career so far has really empowered me and my voice that I have. And
Which
to,
is great.
take my, what I consider maybe expertise or my experience and have it matter
Yes.
has been really great, and especially here at Blend. We do have two male CEOs, but we have a lot of women in leadership roles here. And it's just so great to see that, especially, we work in data science, we have sales, which are male dominated industries, right? So
Yeah.
it's just so good to see that we have women in leadership roles in both departments
Yeah,
here.
absolutely. And it's important to have male advocates, right? I was really
Absolutely.
lucky throughout my career to have supportive men as well, right? We need to support and uplift each other. And I've always been very lucky that I've had men who also were extremely supportive of diversity of thought and women speaking their mind. Maybe they had sisters in their
Right.
lives or daughters of their own that they were more aware of some of these biases and help to eliminate them as much as possible in their organization. So I think that's really important, and I feel like we have that here at Blend as well.
Yeah, it's definitely a really good balance, I feel like. And to your point, I think we have a lot of men on our team who do uplift women and who do, allow our voices to be heard, right? So it's a really good dynamic, I think, here for sure. But
Absolutely. Absolutely.
yes, we love it here. Well, Maggie, thank you so much for all of your insight and your time today. It's been so great getting to know a little bit more about you and,
Yeah.
the advice that you have, because, there are a lot of our viewership are women in the workforce here. So it's always good to hear from somebody who's lived through it and
Yeah.
continuing to conquer that. It's been great.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to the rest of the series too. That
Yeah. So the next episode that we're going to be doing here is going to be out next Wednesday, where I'm going to be chatting with Blend 360. She is new to the team, VP of Strategic Growth. Her name is Kristen Sullivan Stoser. So really excited for that conversation as well, because again, she is working in a male-dominated industry there with strategy. So yeah, so thank you so much again, Maggie, for
awesome.
your time. And for more information, check out our website at blend360.com. Thank
Thanks,
you.
Kelsey.